The camera fades in on the Manhattan skyline at dawn, golden light reflecting off glass towers. Rain drips slowly from a fire escape. What happens when life forces you into someone else's shoes? When a single moment of desperation changes everything you thought you knew about yourself, about love, about destiny itself. This is the story of Sarah Mitchell, a woman who made a choice that would destroy her sister's life, trap her in a marriage to a stranger, and uncover a truth that would shake her entire world. Where are you watching from right now? Comment below and let us know what city you are in. And if the story hooks you, hit that subscribe button so you never miss our next incredible tales. Let's dive in. Sarah Mitchell stared at the wedding dress hanging in the hotel room, her hands trembling as she smoothed the delicate lace. Outside, the June afternoon was heavy with heat, the kind that made everything feel suffocating and inevitable. Her sister Emma was supposed to wear this dress. Emma, who had spent 2 years planning every detail of her wedding to Marcus Chen and their parents, had introduced her to through business connections. But Emma wasn't here. Sarah had received the call 3 hours ago. Emma's voice was frantic, breaking between words. I can't do this. I can't marry him. I don't love him, Sarah. I never did. Mom and Dad forced this whole thing, and I can't breathe. I am getting on a bus to Vermont. I am sorry. I am so sorry. But I can't go through with it. The line had gone dead. Sarah had stood in the lobby of the Grand Hyatt, holding her phone, watching bridesmaids in matching dresses frantically tasting, watching their mother pace near the windows with her hand over her mouth. The wedding was in 90 minutes. 400 guests were arriving. The Chen family was already on their way from their penthouse on the Upper East Side, and Sarah had made a decision that would change everything. She had whispered to her mother, her voice steady even as her heart hammered against her ribs. Marry him. Her mother had gripped her wrist so hard it left marks. You understand what you were saying? You will be bound to him legally. You will have to know what it means, Mom, Sarah said, interrupting her. But Emma's gone. And if we cancel now, we destroy the Chen family as you not. We destroy our family's reputation. Dad's business connections depend on this alliance. So you'll do it. That was the moment Sarah's life split into the before and the after. Now, standing in the wedding dress, she barely recognized herself in the mirror. Her dark hair was pinned up in an elaborate style, each curl perfectly placed. The dress was exquisite ivory silk with hand-stitched beading that caught the light like captured stars. She looked like a bride. She looked like a stranger wearing her sister's dream. A soft knock on the door pulled her back. You ready? Her father asked, stepping inside. His face was pale, aged by the stress of the last few hours. He still didn't fully understand what Sarah had volunteered to do, but he understood the implications. In 30 minutes, whose younger daughter would be legally married to a man she had never met alone, had spoken to only once, briefly, at a family dinner. As ready as you'll ever be, Sarah replied, her voice barely steady. The ceremony took place in the crystal ballroom, and everything moved like a dream or a nightmare. Sarah walked down the aisle on her father's arm, her legs moving mechanically. The guests were beautiful, expensive people in designer clothes and carefully maintained smiles. She could feel their eyes on her, judging, assessing, wondering. And then she saw him. Marcus Chen stood at the altar, and Sarah's breath caught in her throat. He wasn't what she expected. She had imagined someone cold, calculated, a man entering into a business transaction disguised as marriage. But Marcus looked nervous. He looked human. He had warm brown eyes that searched her face with genuine uncertainty, and when she reached the altar, he reached out to steady her hand, his touch gentle. The vows were exchanged in a blur. The priest spoke words about love and commitment. Sarah heard herself repeating promises she had no right to make. When Marcus slipped the ring on her finger, his hand trembled slightly. That night, in the penthouse suite that was now technically her home, Sarah sat on the edge of an enormous bed, still wearing part of the wedding dress. She hadn't been at her hair. It fell in waves down her back. Marcus emerged from the bathroom in dark pajama pants and a white shirt, his wet hair combed back. He looked at her, and she could see the conflict in his expression, desire mixed with something else. Respect, perhaps. Restraint. We need to talk, he said, sitting in the chair across from the bed rather than joining her. I know this is unconventional. Sarah looked at him, trying to read his face. Unconventional. I know you don't want this, Marcus said quietly. I could see it in your eyes walking down the aisle. You didn't look like a bride. You looked like you were walking to your execution. He paused, running his hand through his hair. My parents arranged this marriage. They wanted a merger, business and family combined. I agreed because I thought it was what I was supposed to do. I am 32 years old, and I've spent my entire life following their expectations. But then I met Emma at the dinner, and I realized she didn't want this either. We were both trapped. Sarah's pulse quickened. You knew Emma didn't want to marry you. I suspected, Marcus said. The way she looked at me was polite, distant. There was no connection. He met her eyes. But when I saw you today, walking down that aisle, everything changed. I don't know who you are, Sarah, but you looked terrified and brave at the same time. And that terrified me more than anything I've ever felt. Sarah's hands trembled. You don't know what happened today. No, Marcus agreed. But I am guessing it involves your sister. And I am guessing you made a choice that felt necessary at the time but that you were already regretting. The honesty in his voice made something crack open inside her. Sarah found herself telling him everything: how Emma had called, how she had volunteered, how she had done it partly to save her family's reputation and partly because somewhere, in a moment of insanity, she had wanted to escape her own life. She had wanted to be someone else, just for a moment. And then the moment had become permanent. Marcus listened without judgment. When she finished, he was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, stay here tonight, just to sleep. Tomorrow we'll figure out what to do. But right now, we both need to rest. He pulled a blanket from the closet and settled into the chair, turning away to give her privacy. Sarah watched him in the darkness, the stranger who was now her husband, and she felt something unexpected, not love, but a strange kind of gratitude. He could have demanded his rights. He could have been angry. But instead, he was offering her grace. The next morning, Sarah woke to sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Manhattan. For a moment, she forgot where she was. Then reality crashed back. She was married to Marcus, and she had no idea what came next. She found him in the kitchen, making coffee. He was wearing a charcoal suit, clearly headed to work. He smiled when he saw her, and there was something almost shy about it. Good morning, he said. I made coffee. Your sister told my mother that you like it with one sugar and a splash of cream. Sarah sat down slowly. Emma called your mother. She did, Marcus said. Last night. She wanted to apologize for abandoning everyone. She was panicked, but she also wanted to explain. Interestingly, she said she knew you had taken her place. She said she wasn't surprised. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. What else did she say? Marcus hesitated. She said she hoped you would be happy with me, that she had always suspected you weren't the one, but that maybe you were, she said. She said there was something she had been keeping from everyone, something important. What? Sarah leaned forward. She didn't say, but she wants to meet with you, alone. She is in Vermont, at a small house outside Stowe. She asked if you would go see her this weekend. The weekend came, and Sarah drove north in a rented car, leaving Marcus in the penthouse with instructions to tell their parents she had a migraine. The drive was long, and her mind wouldn't to stop spinning. What could Emma possibly need to tell her? What could be important enough to orchestrate an elaborate meeting? The house was small and blue, nestled among tall pines. Emma was waiting on the porch, and when she saw Sarah, she ran down the step and embraced her sister fiercely. I am sorry, Emma said, tears streaming down her face. I am so sorry. I panicked. I made a terrible decision, and you saved me. But you sacrificed yourself in the process. They sat inside the house, drinking tea, and Emma told her the truth. She had been in love with someone else, a woman named Julia, a lawyer she had met in law school and kept hidden from their conservative family. She couldn't marry Marcus because she was terrified, and she ran. It was selfish, and she knew it, but there was more. The marriage, Emma said carefully, it is not real. I mean, it is legally binding, obviously, but mom and dad never wanted it to be a real marriage. Not at first. What do you mean? Sarah asked, her voice small. The Chen family is much wealthier than mom and dad. Marcus' family owns international import-export businesses, real estate, investment firms. They are incredibly wealthy, Sarah. Like stratospheric wealth. When they arranged the marriage to Marcus, it was supposed to be temporary. A 2-year arrangement to strengthen business ties, and then there would be a quiet annulment. No one needed to know. The room seemed to tilt. Did Marcus know this? I don't know, Emma said. I assumed he did. But honestly, yeah, I'm not sure. He told me he had agreed to it, but he seemed unhappy, like he was being pressured. Sarah drove back to the city in a daze, her mind churning with questions. When she arrived at the penthouse, Marcus was waiting in the living room, still in his suit, drink in hand. How's Emma? He asked. She is okay, Sarah said. Then, without preamble, did you know this marriage was supposed to be temporary? Marcus went very still. Then he set down his drink and stood. Come with me. He led her to his study, a room she hadn't entered yet. It was lined with books and had an impressive view of the city. He opened a safe hidden behind a painting and withdrew a document. My family has legal agreement with your family, he said, handing it to her. 2 years, annulment, silence clause. Your parents signed it 3 months ago. Sarah read the document, her hands shaking. She felt betrayed, trapped. This entire arrangement was a scheme, and she had walked into it blindly. Didn't they know about it? Marcus said quietly. Not until this morning. When I was at my office, my father called me. He wanted to know if the marriage had been consummated, if I was satisfied with the arrangement. He told me about the contract your parents signed. He was extremely pleased when I told him that I had not consummated the marriage, because it meant the annulment would be cleaner. Marcus' voice was bitter. He said your parents would be embarrassed if there were complications, and that I should maintain my distance until the 2-year period was complete. So this is all just, Sarah called in to finish the sentence. A business deal. Marcus said, yes, for everyone involved. My family wanted business advantages. Your family wanted financial security and a connection to wealth. And you. He looked at her intently. You got nothing but trapped in a nightmare. Sarah turned away, moving to the window. The city sprawled below them, millions of people living their lives, none of them knowing that her entire reality had been orchestrated and calculated. She felt something harden inside her, anger, mostly, but also resolve. I want a divorce, she said flatly. Thou, not in 2 years. Thou, I understand, Marcus said. But then he stepped closer. Sarah, wait, please. She turned to face him, her eyes blazing with purpose and fury. Wait for what? For you to manipulate me further? For me to tell you the truth? Marcus said. The real truth, not the business truth. He took a breath, and when he spoke, his voice was entirely different, raw, vulnerable, real. 3 weeks before the wedding, I had my private investigator look into Emma. Not because my family asked me to, but because I was looking for any reason to get out of this arrangement. I thought if I could find something damaging, something that would make my family reconsider, I could escape. He paused. Instead, I found you. What are you talking about? Sarah whispered. I found your photography portfolio, Marcus said. You were a photographer, and you were extraordinary, Sarah. You have a website very small, very undiscovered, but your work is stunning. I spent hours looking at your photographs. They were intimate, honest, raw, and I saw you in them. Not in the images themselves, but in the way you see the world. And I thought, I want to know this person. I want to understand how someone creates beauty like this. Sarah stared at him, her anger faltering. Very few people knew about her photography. She had never pursued it professionally, considering it too impractical, too uncertain. Then I met you at the dinner, Marcus continued, and you were so different from what I expected. You were quiet, observant. You watched people like you were trying to capture their essence. And I realized that the woman in your photographs, the artist, the dreamer, was real. She was standing right in front of me. Marcus, stop, Sarah said. This is manipulation. This is, I know how it sounds, he interrupted. But please, listen. When I realized Emma was going to run, he didn't tell my family. I let it happen. Because I knew you might take her place, and I wanted the possibility of knowing you. It was selfish, and it was wrong, but it was honest. I wanted to be near you. You don't even know me, Sarah said, but her voice was wavering now. I know you were brave enough to sacrifice yourself for your family, Marcus said. I know you were artistic and perceptive. I know you were angry right now, and you have every right to be. But I also know that somewhere in those photographs, you dream of creating something meaningful. And I want to help you do that. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. This is not real. This is a fantasy you've constructed. Maybe, Marcus said, but I am asking for a chance to make it real. Not because of my family's contract, not because of our parents' schemes, but because I choose you, Sarah. I choose you every single day that I wake up in this apartment knowing I am still a stranger to you, but hoping that maybe I won't be for long. Sarah left the penthouse that night. She went to stay with a friend, needing space to think, to feel, to understand what was happening to her. Over the next week, Marcus called her multiple times, but she didn't answer. He sent her a link to a gallery in Tribeca that specialized in photography, along with a simple message: they were waiting to see your work. No pressure, just possibilities. She ignored it. But on the 8th night, unable to sleep, Sarah pulled up her portfolio on her laptop and sent it to the gallery. Within 24 hours, they responded. They wanted to meet with her. They were impressed. They saw potential. Sarah realized something in that moment. The opportunity buzzed coming from Marcus. Marcus had just opened the door. The talent was hers. The potential was hers. The choice, ultimately, was hers. She agreed to meet Marcus for coffee. They sat in a small cafe in Brooklyn, far from either of their usual worlds. Sarah had prepared a speech, a list of boundaries and conditions, but when she saw him, exhausted and uncertain, it all fell away. I am not forgiving what happened, she said quietly. I am not forgetting the manipulation, the secrets, the business arrangement, but I also know that what you said, at least part of it, was genuine, and I need to know if you were willing to build something real with me, not based on fantasy, your idea of who I should be, but based on who I actually am. Yes, Marcus said immediately. Yes, I am. I have conditions, Sarah continued. Complete transparency. From both of us. And you need to understand that I might not ever love you the way you seem to love me. I might walk away. This might not work, I know, Marcus said. But I am willing to take that risk. Over the following months, something unexpected began to happen. Sarah and Marcus started dating like two people who had actually chosen each other. They went to museums. They took long walks through the city. Marcus attended the gallery opening of Sarah's photographs, a stunning success that introduced her work to the world. Sarah met Marcus's colleagues at his company and realized that beneath the wealth and the family expectations, he was a brilliant businessman who had stayed in his father's shadow for years, afraid to step into his own power. One evening, as they sat on the terrace of the penthouse watching the sunset over Manhattan, Marcus said something that changed everything. I need to tell you something about my family, he said. Something my father only told me because our marriage is legal and he wanted me to understand the stakes. Sarah turned to him, her heart picking up. What? The Chen family business is not entirely legal, Marcus said quietly. My father built our fortune partially through import operations that involve bribery of government officials. It is sophisticated. It is hidden, but it is there. He wanted this marriage to you partly because your father is a law firm, but provide legal protection. He wanted leverage within your family, and he wanted me to be happy here in America, settled, married, so that I would be less likely to ask questions or create problems. Sarah felt the blood drain from her face. What are you saying? I am saying you've known for 3 months, and you've been working with the Polícia Federal Norte-Americana, Marcus said. They approached me, told me what they suspected about my family. I agreed to cooperate. My father and several of his associates are being arrested tomorrow morning. Oh my God, Sarah whispered. Marcus, if they find out they want it, Marcus said. The investigation is being handled carefully. My father will face charges related to international fraud and bribery. But I've been working with authorities to separate my own business interests from his. I'm not going down with him, Sarah. And more importantly, I'm not letting him drag you or your family down either. Why didn't you tell me? Sarah asked, her voice shaking. Because I needed to protect you from plausible deniability, Marcus said. The less you knew, the safer you were. I'm only telling you now because everything changes tomorrow, and I needed you to hear it from me first. The next morning, the news broke. Chen Industries was under federal investigation. Marcus Chen Sr. was being arrested for international fraud. It was a massive scandal that made headlines across multiple news outlets. But Marcus Chen Jr. was cleared. He became a whistleblower, cooperating with authorities and helping to unravel a complex network of illegal activities. His own business empire, which was separate from his family, has remained intact and grew stronger. Sarah watched him go through this crucible, and she saw his courage. She saw how he was willing to betray his own family to do the right thing. She saw how he was rebuilding himself, creating his own legacy separate from his father's. And somewhere in the process, she fell in love with him. It wasn't the romantic, storybook kind of love she had imagined as a girl. It was deeper, a love built on respect, on vulnerability, on the willingness to see someone completely and choose them anyway. A year after that wedding day, the one where she had taken her sister as the place, Sarah stood in a small courthouse with Marcus, renewing their vows. But this time, it was their choice. Their family and friends were there, but the pressure was gone. The schemes were gone. It was just two people who had survived deception and emerged on the other side with something real. I never thought I would be here, Sarah said as they walked out into the Manhattan sunshine. No, truly husband and wife in every way that mattered. Where? Marcus asked, slipping his arm around her waist. Happy, she said simply. I thought my life was over the day I put on that wedding dress. But it was just beginning. That evening, Sarah's photographs were being displayed in a gallery in Chelsea. Marcus sat in the front row, watching as the world saw what he had already known, that Sarah Mitchell was an artist of exceptional talent and vision. Emma flew in from Vermont for the opening, Julia beside her, holding her hand openly now. The family had come to terms with who Emma was, and while it had been painful, they were learning to accept it. Their mother approached Sarah, tears in her eyes. I am so proud of you, she said. I am ashamed of what we did, but I am proud of who you've become in spite of it. Sarah hugged her mother, and for the first time since that frantic day in the hotel, she felt like she could forgive. As the night progressed, Sarah stood in front of one of her most stunning photographs, a portrait of Marcus, taken months after they had truly chosen each other. In the image, his eyes held joy and peace and something that looked like love. That is you, a voice said behind her. Sarah turned to find an elderly woman looking at the photograph. I am sorry. That is you, the woman repeated, pointing at Marcus in the photograph. The person in this portrait is someone who knows exactly who they are and who is exactly where they want to be. That is a rare thing to capture. You're a brilliant photographer. Sarah smiled, and as she walked through the gallery, she realized the woman was right. Every photograph she had taken, the ones hanging on these walls, told a story of transformation, of people becoming themselves. Her own transformation had been unexpected and painful and wonderful. She had married a stranger in her sister's place, and he had turned out to be a man worth building a life with. But more importantly, she had discovered herself in the process. As the evening ended and the gallery began to empty, Marcus found her on the small terrace where they often stood. The photographer of the year, he said, wrapping his arms around her. That is what the team's critic just said about you. Your next show's already fully booked. I know, Sarah said, leaning back into him. I read it 5 minutes ago. Are you happy? He asked, his voice tentative, as if even after all this time, he wasn't entirely sure. Sarah turned to face him. Yes, she said, I am happy. Not because everything is perfect, but because it is real. So tell us, where are you watching from right now? Comment below and let us know your city. And if the story about sacrifice, secrets, and unexpected love captured your heart, please hit that subscribe button. Make sure to turn on notifications so you never miss our next incredible tales of drama, betrayal, and redemption. We upload stories like this every week, and if you love Sarah and Marcus' journey, there are so many more stories waiting for you. Subscribe now. See you in the next one.